public displays of homesteading, and I'm out here in the garden, and so I thought I'd invite you to hang out with me. So I'm irrigating. There is a lot of lettuce sprouting, and all of these lettuce seeds came from 2024 lettuce plants that bloomed. And this area is starting to evolve more and more as we remove the gravel. And spring is coming on, everything's turning green. I don't have any big picture things to say on this stream. I'm just here. So as you come on in, if you don't mind hitting the like button, that will push this live stream in the algorithm. This is the Jerusalem artichoke patch. It's pretty nice and cool and breezy this morning. I think it's supposed to be a super high wind afternoon though. So I'm just enjoying the quiet of the morning to get this job done. This number one artichoke here is completely toast. The rest of them are doing well though. So we've got 5 good ones. 4 good ones out of the 5 I planted. 2, 3, and number 4 artichoke. So welcome back to 1 Million Pumpkins. We're an off-grid homestead in northern Arizona. Feel free to pop in the chat and say hi. If you've got any questions or comments, happy to talk to you. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday morning. So this is my off-grid garden in the high desert of northern Arizona. And it's coming back to life. We've got a lot of stuff growing in here, from Jerusalem artichokes to actual artichokes. And this one, check it out. We have our first artichoke flower developing. I'm so happy about that. And I plant in these furrows. They're heavily mulched. Gotta flood them so that the water goes down deep. Adding organic material every week. That rhymes, so it must be true. And in this adjacent furrow, we have onions. I planted about 500 onion sets for our annual onion haul for a family of 3. This is real homesteading. We grow our own food. We eat our own food. Sure, we supplement with, convenience food and staples like flour and beans, but we do a lot of 80 to 100% homestead meals here on the farm. And I thank you for joining us. This is gravity-fed water that we haul from St. John's. and pump it into the raised IBC tote so that I have some water pressure. So the grass grows about an inch a day. In previous videos you can see that I chopped all this and dropped it to create more mulch. Also, I like to harvest the grass for the sheep and rabbits. So this is slow living. It's slow. Now, can you imagine how this elm tree will shade this area in a few years? This thing was a twig last year, and it's got kind of a decent trunk developing. Nice little elm tree. The good thing about elm trees for us is that they're animal fodder as well, and that's called tree hay. Hay is any dried fodder for animals. So some comes from trees, some comes from grass, some comes from legumes like alfalfa. And as much as we can grow our own animal feed, we hope to do that and close the loop ultimately. We're doing permaculture on this homestead, which means earth care, people care, and future care. So trying to feed our family off the land and then help our community while healing the earth. Humans are an apex species, and we are here to steward the land. We are here to help. We are not carbon credits to destroy or diminish. We're supposed to help the earth become fruitful and multiply. And that's what God called us to do here on our farm. We've got 40 acres of raw land in Apache County, Arizona. Good morning, Steve. Yay. Yay. I'm glad to see you, my friend. How you doing today, Steve? And the rest of you, feel free to pipe in. I'm here to start conversations and, build online community for people that care about greening the desert. Thanks for talking about stewardship. You're welcome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Really appreciate you, Steve. Such a good friend. You're great. Yes. So happy to hear that you're feeling well. It's a crazy world out there. Right, so that's the onions got watered. These right here are volunteer narrow leaf plantains. And I just recently saw a video that said all parts of this plant are edible, medicinal. So next time a harvester ant bites me, I'm going to reach for the plantain leaf. And evidently, the flower buds are supposed to taste like a mushroom. I don't think they're like magic mushrooms. The world is trippy enough. But I keep watering this area that has not been planted because it's growing wonderful volunteer grasses. That's a triticale. Oh, it's making a seed head. Very nourishing plant for the livestock. This is perennial rye. And then over here is a native rice grass. So all of these live in harmony in my furrow. So along this fence line, you may have watched me plant perennial and tree seeds, and I'm not seeing anything come out of that endeavor yet. I'm not giving up. Just not seeing anything yet. But I keep it watered, keep the life going on in the soil. Now here, right here is a grass that we do not like. This is a foxtail, and this is the kind with the little needle-shaped points, and these needle-shaped points will work their way into your animals. So I just eradicate those before they can self-propagate. While they're vegetative, they're useful, and they're one of the earliest grasses that we get here. So they're very frost tolerant and super rapid to go to seed. So they're kind of a cool plant. They're just, dangerous for livestock. Yeah, like I said, these rye grasses grow about an inch a day, so I've been hard at work chopping and dropping them weekly. Just so artichoke. Ooh. This guy's a year and a half old, grown from seed. Artichokes are heavy feeders. They like fertile soil and plenty of water. So one of the things I do here is on the outside of my garden fence, I pile on sheep and rabbit manure. That gives a bit of a wall of fertility, and before the poultry come, it's kind of an embankment, and that is a bit of a mini wind stop. Yep, no trees, no brambles, nothing has come up from my subtropic line here. You never know, though. Steve says, triticale making seed is wonderful. I agree. And that came from buying local unsprayed hay from Lonesome Valley Farm, Hay Hollow Road in Snowflake. If you're in the White Mountain area and you need good quality animal feed, I highly recommend you check them out. They're on Facebook and on Google Maps. All of those natives will continue to spread. They do. That's what they do. Now here, a really nice winterized, this survived the winter, this oregano. Amazing. And I also planted pomegranate seeds down this row, and I haven't seen a sign of them. Pomegranate seeds, goji berries, and raspberry seeds. So nothing yet. I've got wild lettuce and bindweed, though. And mint. I'm not mad at having mint. People don't want to have mint invade their gardens, but I need something to invade my garden. Anything that will survive our harsh climate and short season is a friend. Even if it's an invasive. Invasive just means it's a low care. And to be honest, that's a medicinal not just for humans, for tea and whatnot, but some of the animals will select eating mint for their own health as well. This rosemary, it bit the dust. I just don't think that it is as hardy as they say it is. I don't know why it won't grow here through the winter. Hello, Smegma AKO 4161. Thanks for joining us in my off-grid garden. So this is working on flooding this furrow on the fence line. have to do some logistics to take that hose around the other side of my tote to get to the other reaches of the garden. Oh, this is something. Let me show you this. But first, we'll do it as I walk this hose line around the onion patch, the elm tree, the salt bush. Oh, this salt bush couple. This is a married couple. We've got a male and a female salt bush. And you can tell they have different flowers. I think this one's the male one. It'll pollinate. And I think this one is the female one. It will make seeds. The four-winged seeds. So they're looking nice and fresh and green. I pruned them a lot this year. So they're coming up from, what one would maybe call a coppice on the ground level. But those are nice to prune little handfuls and hand to the sheep for enrichment. Here's my naturalized, what is it called? Brain fart. Fennel. Duh. Yeah, the fennel. Yeah, this fennel, this is going on its third season. Very robust. While that waters the fennel, I've got to do some rope tricks with my hose. Where my hose at? Over the bean pile and around the bend. Cilantro, Swiss chard, parsley, big garlic plants, more garlic plants. It's always a bit of an obstacle course with allowing native shrubs to occupy your garden, but they're well worth the inconvenience. Yeah. The saltbush pear looks great. Wonderful that you can harvest seed. Thanks, Steve. I suppose that someday someone might want to have saltbush seed. It's an underrated plant where I live. Kind of just a wasteland plant. It grows so well on its own. Like nobody bothers to do anything special with it. Now here's the red raspberry making its comeback. So it did get hard frosted when it prematurely sent these new runners. But it's coming back. Everything is so green, Steve says. I agree. It's so, like, inside my garden, my secret garden, it's a lot more basic. In here, we have some of these things like winter rye. Okay, so this is where I actually finally did the thing. I prepped these 2 furrow beds on my trellis, and close to the trellis there's 3 deep of magnolia snap peas, and on this line on the outside there's carrots planted. So some people cover them. Maybe I should cover them. I just put a thin layer of mulch, and I just have been watering the carrot seeds twice a day. The carrots need to be kept moist, consistently moist. They like a warm bed. We've been having temps in the mid to high 60s, and it's going to continue to go up um, to the 70s and 80s. I think we have a high of 81 forecast soon. That's great temperatures for spring crops. Steve says, I'd call saltbush on your land a great pioneer. Yeah, it's like the old school prospector that's been living there for, you know, his whole life, 60, 80 years, mining fine minerals from deep underground, bringing them to the surface. So I call it a prospector. And it is a native. Nobody has to plant it. Nobody has to curate saltbush. It wants to grow in alkali soil with all kinds of weird conditions. I think it takes a pioneer to recognize its benefits. It's like an old man wisdom plant. So, yep. So this used to be a horse corral, and it was insanely compacted. This is the very center of a horse corral. And we're able to now get some good tilth, and we have this side had a year of grass roots pumping carbohydrates into the earth. So over here you can see a little bare spot, and we've got some ants popping through. But this is basically how the whole horse corral looked. I put this organic material on top, but sweep away what I put, and hard as pavement. And that just sheets rainwater right off. And that's one reason why my furrows are depressed. They're not bad. They're lower than the profile. So, I don't know where he is. Matt's looking for Hui. Over here, once again, I've chopped and dropped these multiple times. You can see the chop, and they just keep coming back. Here's the other red raspberry with its runners coming out of the earth. So excited about these. There you are. Hui has to go inside. Hui the barn cat. He's not kind to his son. All right. I'm gonna head over here to this garlic patch for watering. Here is a perennialized onion that has gone rampant, covered with amazing flower stalks. Those are edible, but they're also very beautiful to look at. So those will make nice little pom-poms of allium blooms. Here's a sorrel that's bolting. This sorrel itself came from a previous sorrel that bolted, so I'm not that worried about it. But that's a great green for a little lemony zest for your salad. There's a volunteer lettuce. Got more romaine and leaf lettuce mixed in with the garlic. And I just harvested 1/3 of a pound of fresh lettuce to go with our birria tacos. We Matt made lamb birria. He made like 9 pounds of lamb birria a few weeks ago, and we froze it in dinner-sized portions. So yesterday he defrosted one of those, and we had, whoa, a feast. So once again, this one is a wild lettuce, and that's not tasty, but it is medicinal. Next to it is our leaf lettuce, a butter crunch leaf lettuce that volunteered when we allowed our lettuces to go to seed last year. This one I harvested leaves off, and it will continue to develop its rosette. I will have lettuce all season from the first part and from these other lettuce plantings. So I just go up and down the rows, tootling along. If it's been hot and especially dry, I can deep flood these. It takes about 1 275 tote to do a basic water, kind of like a flash water, like I'm doing, where I just kind of walk along. But when it's peak growing season and it's hot outside, it will take 2 days to complete. And I leave my native shrubberies right in the middle. I'm not one to come and de-stump. I've noticed that this garden, which was not scraped, actually has more life in it than the cleared area where we thought we were going to garden. So when we first came and we rented the skid steer and cleared the pads for our buildings and for our RV to live on, Matt went ahead and scraped what we call the smile garden and formed a berm, like a swell on contour with just a berm. And that's cool. I kept piling animal manure against the berm to add fertility. But between you and me, scraping it destroys all of the collaborative plant relationships. This garden was my mom's area with the horse corral. The gravel was her RV pad, but the rest was not scraped or anything. Matt's here. I don't know if he wants to tell me something. I'm gonna mute it while he tells me. Alright. Anyways, he's heading out. Got some errands to run. Forgot what I was talking about. Oh, scraping versus just planting in harmony with the native situation. And I've noticed that the ground is more fertile and easier to work with if you do not clear it. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to wrap their heads on. Like, what? You don't clear the land? You don't scrape off all the quote-unquote weeds and shrubberies? But aren't they obnoxious? No, they're a point of green during the depth of winter, and they're continuing to photosynthesize. So one of the tenets of syntropic agroforestry is to maximize photosynthesis. You want to have plants living in the earth, doing their job of turning sunlight into nutrition. And that rabbit bush does that, even in the worst weather, the worst drought, the worst heat, the deepest cold. I think that this one here is a desert marigold. That's going to make cute little yellow buttons. The hard frost knocked back these alfalfas, but they'll bounce back. Other people say don't use seedy, weedy hay to mulch with. You're giving yourself a weeding job. Well, you're giving yourself a chop and drop biomass job. You're giving yourself free animal food. You're giving yourself free photosynthesis, free carbon pump. Yeah, you're giving yourself another job. I've noticed that there are two modalities for desert gardening. One is kind of the Fort Knox approach, where you create a completely protected perimeter. All dimensions, from land, sea, and air, are protected from the wild. You gotta protect from pests, from the air, from the ground, jumping, climbing, chewing. Then you've got your tiny ones, your insects, and then you've got your pathogens. And so there's one modality, which is to create a lab environment. Create a compound, a silo, a fallout shelter for your plants to be safe from the savage exterior. Well, they say you need to have hardware cloth and shade. They say you have to keep the birds out, and you have to keep all the digging voles and varmints out. I don't have that. What I have to keep out are our own poultry and our own livestock. And I've got a guardian dog. We've got barn cats. So we're not getting a lot of rodent pressure or like deer jumping in. A deer would have to be a fool to jump in here with Mr. Amarok on duty. And shade cloth, I don't have time. I don't have the budget to create structures. The square footage would diminish so much if everything had to be in a cage to survive. So I've got a free range garden here. And I invite you, if you're heading out into the wilderness to pioneer your own raw land in northern Arizona, there's no need to be quite so precious. You don't have to create a Fort Knox for your plants. Hi, Fiasco. What I do recommend, though, if you're doing it this way that I'm doing it, is to overseed, overplant. You want more. You need to plant more than what you think you need to harvest. Because you do have to give that tribute to the wildlife and to the pest pressure. Also, I say overlap, plant multiple varieties and species, because different years are going to select different varieties and species. So, for example, in 2024, I cropped a massive abundance of okra. 2025, As soon as an okra would germinate, the birds plucked them. The wild birds, like doves. So plant more. These garlics will be ready in July or August. So we spent $45 buying garlic stock from Garlic Gods. This is Korean red. They started doing a Blem garlic sale where you can get their less than Instagram perfect garlic bulb stock at a discount. So we did that. We purchased our stock a little bit later than usual. And if you know, you know. Garlic stock goes out of stock at all the nurseries really fast. So you gotta buy it early. We were a little bit late, so we bought the Blem. You can hear it's stuff's lit in the poultry barn. It's an egg-laying party over there. Well, we're going on 36 minutes, 37 minutes here. Does anyone have any questions? Where my hose at? Ugh. Sorry about all that. Amrock likes to chase cats. He's not allowed. Leave the cat alone. He's wondering if I want to show you the seedlings. That chore of carrying them from the living room outside to their hardening area, I haven't done that yet. They're in the living room still. So when I'm done watering out here, I'm going to move into doing that chore. So that will be another video. Sorry. So, see, I gotta. That's a vigorous volunteer alfalfa. I might chop that for the rabbits today. Yesterday I watered everything in the back end. This is the onion patch. I've got about 500 onions planted for the annual onion harvest for a family of 3. So the onions you buy in the store are also done like this, like onions. They're like 120 days, I want to say, or more even. And then they all come harvestable at once. So the onions you get at the store were harvested July, August the previous year. There's a lapse. Supply chains are really gonna do weird stuff since all the food was grown and harvested last year. And industrial farmers who rely on chemical fertilizers, they're going to be hurting. The prices have gone so high that commodity crops cannot be commoditized. So suddenly, regenerative and small scale level food production is becoming more pronounced as a way to feed the world. Thanks for understanding, Steve. I will definitely do an update today. Hopefully I will do a how to pot up crowded tomato seedlings that were multi-sown in a red cup. I've got about 20 Gardener's Delight tomatoes per cup. I've got 2 cups of those. They're looking a little harsh. So here is some Swiss chard. I have chopped and dropped and harvested grass for the animals. I don't even know how many times, 10 or 12 times. This one's bolting. That's great. This Swiss chard can resow its children in the row. And this row obviously is ready to chop and drop again. So this is what it turns into when you chop that. I think it was a couple days ago I showed y'all this area where I got medieval on you. I allowed the tomato vines to just stand up there. There's some intercropped herbs like this mint. Mint and cilantro. Those overwintered beautifully. Right, but I left the dead vines to be kind of a windbreak. Some gardeners cannot stand the eyesore, and I don't blame them. It's pretty ugly. You can tell it's pretty ugly. So I left the string trellis up. I'm thinking that I don't need to re-engineer these 2 furrows. Better to utilize the existing string trellis. And I'm watering these fallow furrow lines for just that reason. We've got this cover crop of grass. I can cut 5 pounds of tall grass per row, and that's a great augmentation for my ruminant feeding plan. And it's also a little bit of resilience. The feed stores were out of Bermuda. The local feed store was out of all of the hay products for like a week. And you that's a food dependency, a hidden food dependency for homesteaders, is making sure they can access animal feed. The drought has... Oh, I'm stuck. I'm stuck on a saltbush stick. See, when you coppice it, it comes back vigorously and vegetatively. This giant saltbush is the cat's camp. It's also starting to make its flowers. This right here is a wasp gall, not a normal part of the saltbush. Anyways, that saltbush is a place where my cats like to hang out. Rabbit brush. Right, but food resilience for your livestock. Livestock stays fresh on the hoof. No canning or freezing, but you need to feed and water them. So if you have a crop of volunteer grass, that's a great thing to have when you have sheep and rabbits and chickens and stuff. Let this garlic row flood a bit. And I think I'll just kind of walk you off the rest of the garden. You can tell that I recently chopped and dropped, and then I also The grasses that grow inside the seed bed, I do pull those, but I leave them so that the microbes can travel back into the soil. Here's a little lettuce plant. We had some of that last night. The rest of this row is fallow, monster parsley, Swiss chard, and cilantro. A whole entire fallow row with just grass and volunteer fennel. I'm behind on my tasks. This is foxtail grass. That grass will cause injury to your livestock. So that's kind of priority one for me here in the garden, is to eradicate this entire row of foxtail. There's Fiasco demonstrating the fact that the salt bush is cat camp. Carrying on with the theme of failure, I haven't really seen anything come up in my 6 zai holes that I seeded with pomegranate trees and brambles and goji berries. So that's kind of sad, but you just gotta roll with the punches. Elm tree's doing well. No thornless locusts came up at all. This row also nothing. 2 rows fallow and 3 zai pits. Same. Nothing germinating in these guys. I water them diligently. Planting trees and perennials from seeds is a new thing for me. This one has something growing, but I don't know what it is. So we'll have to see if that's actually something I planted. And to complete the back half of the garden, a vigorous 3-band onion patch. Hey Vaughn, howdy homesteaders! I'm so glad you joined the channel. I've always enjoyed your channel and really glad that we can share what we're doing up here. I think you're in more of the Prescott area. We're in the Apache County, St. John's area. We're a part of the Colorado Plateau. So we've got lots of mesas and canyons cutting across them. You can see all the way to New Mexico from here. And of course, the powers that be have been painting the skies relentlessly. All of this came out of the ass end of an airplane. I watched them do it. I get up at sunrise and there's just a few lines, or there's already haze, and then they just paint the sky. Oh, Steve, yes, coppicing the salt bush. That makes it super happy, and you're right, the vegetative gain is exceptional. Vaughn, thank you for saying that it's beautiful. I love it here. Appreciate you. Now here's the vacated aristocrat pen, and we're going to dismantle all of this, and this is all going to become another section of vegetable garden. And I do not separate, I don't separate the orchard from the vegetable garden. I want to have a food forest, and hopefully it'll be a syntropic food forest where we're exploring succession, using the power of succession to maximize photosynthesis. Yeah, Vaughn says chemtrails are everywhere. When we first moved here, I do not recall seeing this. You know, as a farmer, as a homesteader, you're always checking the skies. There's layers upon layers. You're always checking the skies. So when people, like my husband, doesn't buy into my explanation, that's why I call it airplane poop. I'm not here to tell you what is the chemical composition of whatever they're putting up there. So, like, some people want to say, oh, it's just water vapor. Well, how come if it's water vapor, when it's this overcast, why is it so arid? It's below 20 humidity. Below 20% humidity when it's like this cloudy day. This should be like a 35% humidity if it was water vapor. Oh my God, they're just gaslighting us. I get tired of it. It's frustrating to me too because I like to gaze into the sky and say my prayers to God and to Jesus. And instead, I've got this muck. I don't know if it creates fatigue. My family, all three of us suffer from fatigue. What do you guys think? There's no reason. There's no reason for this. Well, all right. We've been on for 51 minutes. I'm happy to field any questions or comments, but I'm I'm about done watering, and I'm feeling ready to say goodbye. Steve says, I still need to get you the trees for the future forest garden manual. If a centropic forest garden is my goal. Well, it is, and I hope I can follow the information you share with me. You know, I'm a little bit of a dilettante. I've got a lot of tasks to take care of, and I'm trying to do a lot of things, but I like systems that once you get them spinning, they spin themselves, and Syntropy seems like the way to go. So here I am with my face unwashed and my hair uncombed. I've been out here since the sun came up at like 6 o'clock, and so I really thank you for joining me on another Irrigate stream. It's like Watergate, except it's Irrigate, and I hope it did not irritate. So please, why won't you go ahead and mulch that like button, click subscribe, click the notification bell. Have a lovely day. All the best to the gang. Right back to you, Steve. Cheers and blessings.